This is one. This is one of the easiest picks I've ever made. Texas is loaded. Texas is number one. They have a Manning at quarterback. Poor Ohio State. They ain't got a chance. Give me my first love.
Oh, there it is. Here it comes.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
Who's got it better than us?
This is the Church Pew Sports Podcast, featuring a group of pastors delivering bombastic takes on sports, life, and faith.
We're going to attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Take a knee.
Man, it's hard to break us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Lend an ear.
These are some of the best questions I've had. I have to tell you that straight up.
As the Church Pew Sports Podcast begins.
We were all supposed to be here together, man. We're destined for this. Just stay the course.
Give each other a high five.
Oh, the excitement in the locker room. It's everywhere. It's all pervasive from coast to coast as college football season is underway, and we're just, depending on when you're listening, a few days away from the launch of the NFL season. Hello, friends, and welcome into Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith. It is so good to have you with us. Bill Hobson here, and we are going to have some fun talking about what just happened over the weekend in college football. And in fact, as we're recording this, there is one more game being played, and that is the collegiate debut of that fuzzy little, friendly little teddy bear known as Bill Belichick in North Carolina. So let me bring in the team here. Paul Miller, Pastor Paul Miller joins us from Texas?
Houston, yes, Texas.
Your new home away from Minneapolis.
Yeah, I get down here occasionally. It's hot down here. I don't know. It's hot.
I've read that.
Yeah.
I have heard that. Well, we're going to have some fun talking college football. We are joined also by a frequent panelist here on Church Pew Sports, Josh Gilmer, but he joins us, Paul, in a whole new Josh realm than ever before, because 2 weeks ago, Josh Gilmer got married. Dude.
This is correct.
Congratulations. And it was completely uneventful and everything went exactly as planned, if I understand right.
That is not quite correct, but we made it through, so that matters.
So in the last episode, Josh, I just very shortly, just briefly, addressed the fact that because your dad was going to join us, had everything gone according to plan for the wedding, and actually there was a bit of a medical scare that took place. So as much as you are comfortable, can you give us a little 30,000-foot recap of what the wedding, the reception mosely was like in your world?
Yeah. So we had the ceremony. That all went well. We did the thing all good. I didn't even make it fully to the reception. We were in cocktail hour. We were taking photos, took one bite of food, and it got stuck in my esophagus. And I thought for sure that it was going to pass. And it happened a couple times to me before. One time up at camp, had to drive an hour away to the Sioux. So this was not anything that I was unfamiliar with. But of course, this was the worst that it ever had been. So I ended up staying in the hospital overnight. Had to wait for the GI doctor to get there in the morning and do an endoscopy and mechanically get the food down into my stomach. And so quite the story. Didn't really get to see anyone really, frankly, that came. So
that is one expensive single bite of food for somebody.
That's right.
Paul, what's you've performed a good number of wedding ceremonies. What's the most memorable kind of off the rails experience that you've heard of, or maybe were a part of officiating, and does it rival what Josh just shared with us?
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the fact that your wedding night was in the hospital, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Probably the best wedding story I have is I officiated a wedding for my wife's one of Bobby's cousins, and his wife, who worked for Trump And so this was before Trump was Trump, but he was still Trump, if you know what I mean. And
Sure.
everything was brought bigger and more bombastic. And they had their golden retriever as the best man. And he followed them down the aisle as they were leaving the wedding. And he knocked over 3 of these super huge, expensive glass pedestal rose things, and it just made an enormous mess. And the bride and groom were already out, and I'm standing there. I'm just like, well, hey, Donald. Hey, everybody. This is great. How's it going? It was
So, Josh, let's just put a cap on that story. You're feeling okay now? You're good?
Yeah, I've been recovering. I've been to the doctor 3 times since then, but as of yesterday, I'm back to 90%, I'd say.
And your lovely bride is very understanding, and it's all good.
Yep, she's all good.
I am glad
you're
to
married.
hear you're married. That's
right.
That's the important thing, and you'll have a story to tell forever for the rest of your days.
That is true.
Well, we are also joined by a first-time panelist on the program. Paul, why don't you bring in our guest from the Wizard of Oz, and we'll put him through the paces.
Yes, I want to introduce all of you to my friend Scott Tinman, Tinman, however we say it, bro. Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. Scott is from Findlay, Ohio. So he is south of Ann Arbor, but not incredibly far south. So he has an interesting perspective on the rivalry. He bleeds scarlet and gray as I do. Scott, it is good to have you here because most weeks on the podcast, the conversation is shifted in one direction, and I'm kind of glad to have a brother in arms. But we do have a little hazing thing that we need to do for you, bro. And we do this for every first-time guest so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit. And it's just one question. And that question is, who are your irrational sports loyalties? The teams that you follow, any sport, any level, teams that you follow in such a way that your wife and others that know you tell you need to relax a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I am a Buckeye fan, but I'm not going to put that one out front because I did grow up in Chicago and on the South Side. So I'm a fully disappointed Chicago fan as it goes. And I would say that, Bulls are my number one. Bears rate kind of 1A. And then the White Sox, of course, being a South Sider because there's only one Chicago baseball team. The other one is a minor league team. And then the Blackhawks, the Joe Quenneville years were good years, but I'm not as big of a fan there. But Bulls and Bears, definitely big fan there. And I'm really disappointed that Jerry Reinsdorf owns 2 of my favorite teams.
Yeah, we feel your pain, bro. I'm sure that Bill and Josh love hearing that there's another Bulls fan on the podcast.
Yeah, you're really checking all the boxes here, Scott. I'm glad Paul has such a wide network spread across the EFCA. And what is your role, by the way, in ministry? How do you know Paul? And let's talk a little bit about what your work is like.
Yeah, I am a youth pastor in the EFCA in Findlay, Ohio at Living Hope Church. I've been at this church for 13 years, been doing youth ministry for 32 years. Wow. And I would say probably, I think 29 of those have been in the EFCA.
Wow, that's amazing. So, very cool. You're beating the national average, my friend, right? The tenure is not usually quite that long. And there are a lot of Tiger fans in Findlay, Ohio. How do we bring you over to the light side?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And when the Cubs played the Guard and the Indians at the time in the World Series, that was a really hard one to cheer for because I didn't want either of those teams to win, But yeah, the Tiger fans are strong within my church, and they are enjoying these last few years, last couple of years especially.
Yeah, it's been fun, except for earlier today. But Yeah, it's been a fun resurgence for sure. Well, let's get into our football talk. At the very beginning of the program, I played a quick soundbite that was the pick heard around the world. Other networks came in to simulcast Lee Corso's final headgear pick, and of course, most of game day was dedicated to a tribute to the coach. 38 years, I think, on game day, and of course, his health is not great, and we all can hear that. We won't make any jokes about that, but I'm wondering, because we have kind of a generational divide here on the program, I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on the legacy of Lee Corso, and I want to start with the young guy on here, and then we'll kind of work our way through the panel, because I'm wondering if we have a different perspective on Grandpa Lee. Josh, where do you come down on all of that as you saw the big send-off on Saturday?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I am a part of the younger crowd. So for me, my memories are, like most people, I'm sure the headgear pick. But for me, even before I was able to understand anything that was going on the TV, I could just see him put on the headgear. And that was what I was looking forward to all the time, because that I could follow. So that is, first thing that I remember and the first thing I still think of now. So
were you kind of, nostalgic? Were you thinking, I'm going to miss this guy? Or was, is the college age crowd saying it's about time?
I don't think that anybody is saying it's about time. I do think that, bringing in Pat McAfee has been a great addition, in my opinion, but at the same time, love seeing Lee. I did not get the chance to actually watch the full show this weekend, but I will say that my thoughts as far as this weekend were that I mostly was just as happy as I was for Lee and his farewell. I was more disappointed in the fact that I now have to live knowing that the headgear both started and ended with Ohio State. And so that kind of did taint his departure for me.
Yeah, he went 6-0 in his final day of picks. Scott, your thoughts on the Corso legacy and era?
Yeah, I love Lee Corso, the years that he's put in there. I mean, when you look at the reminiscing that was done through the show and showing like the early days of ESPN and how it has changed the way that we look at college football on Saturdays. It brought a newness to, hey, this is a sport worth watching. And so I loved being able to see it. You could definitely tell it was time for him to go. It was there, but I also thought, it's an awesome touch. The band there in the background with the Corso in the field. I mean, what better way to go out and come on, we all knew he was never going to not pick Ohio State this week. Yeah. I mean, come on, it was as pre-planned as the WWE matches that Pat McAfee would be a part of, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's really true. Yeah, here's my thing on it, Bill. My favorite part of the whole thing was when Herb Street told the story about the first time that Corso reached out to him and said, "Hey man, can you help me get the Brutus headgear? Because I want to do this thing." And he had to tell him, "Yeah, no, we're too uptight to let you do that," or whatever. I just thought that was really that was an interesting story. And you're right, Scott, there were a bunch of other ones as well. It was good. We all knew, like you said, he was going to pick the Buckeyes. I think he called Ohio State his first love, which, okay. There you go. But I thought it was great. I loved the marching band. I loved everything about it. I thought they went over and above. I did flip over to Fox because I couldn't, hearing that Dave Portnoy was going to be on over at Fox is like slowing down to watch an accident when you're driving on the highway kind of a thing for me. And I flipped over right at a time when they were talking about Lee Corso. And I'm like, that's actually really cool that the main competitor network was taking some time to say, hey, Corso was the man.
Yeah.
So it was a good thing all around.
It's not often that I compliment ESPN on how they handle things, but they did a great job. They did the production pieces that were played throughout the morning. They were super well done. They got the Herb Street crying stuff out of the way in a recorded piece, because during the actual live final pick, I thought there would be a little bit more tribute, but when they started to pipe it into the entire stadium, and that's what you're hearing here is the echo.
All right, this is one of the easiest picks I've ever made.
So, you can hear the echo in the background because it's going into the entire stadium over the PA. When that happened, I thought, well, Herbie's going to hold it together because he's not going to have any time to talk. But I do have to say that I was kind of 3 years ago calling for some graceful exit for this guy that everybody seems to like and everybody appreciates, because in some ways I felt like it was a disservice to him to drag it out as long as they did. I'm glad they ended it well. I'm glad they ended it. And I would have to assume, and I think I may have seen this in an interview somewhere, I believe his family was consulted and they gave the nod to letting him continue each of the last couple of years. I mean, because frankly, his fastball was down to a slow pitch softball in the last couple of years, and everything was being read. And Herb Street was a great caretaker for him. Yeah. You could tell there was deep love there. So Coach Corso, a huge force in college football. And we look at where the game was when he started his broadcasting legacy, not his coaching legacy, but his broadcasting career, and now the end of it, so the bookends, and how different the universe of college football is over the course of those 38 years, including this conversation about the possibility of maybe a 28-team playoff, right? So we're talking about a little bit of everything. It's pretty rare for Reese Davis to be outspoken and have an opinion, but Reese has some thoughts on 28 teams.
I'm just going to say this flat out. I don't believe they're serious about this. I believe this is like when you go to sell your house and you say, I'm going to ask, $1 million more than I really will settle for. They're trying to get something back on the other side, because on its face, this is absurd. It's absurd on its face. So they have to be looking for something else. That's my guess. And I almost feel like the SEC's play to go to 9 games in the regular season, saying, okay, let's see what you do with the strength of schedule metric. But the other thing is, all of these schedules are still going to be unequal. So, Heather, there's no way. I agree with Petiti on this. 100% agree. There's no magic metric. Somebody's going to be mad regardless of the answer, right?
Okay, so Josh Gilmer, are they aiming high knowing they will settle for 16 teams? Or is there some bizarre... Are we going to be like the basketball tournament here in 5 years?
I like to think they're aiming high. I understand it's all a money grab, so there's no way for me to know the truth. I do know that I think even 12 is ridiculous. I want less. I don't want this. I don't know what they want, but whatever they want is not what I want. So
what do you want?
I think going back to, I think 6 is a good number. I think you go to 6, you give top 2 teams a bye. I feel like, when was the last time you had a 2-loss national champion who didn't even beat their rival, who was, had 8 wins at the time?
I think
12 teams just opened up for a lot of fake championships down the road. But I think 6 is a good number, that you're still limiting it to, 0, 1-loss teams at max, and you can at least reward the top ones with a bye. I think any more than that is too much.
Yeah, interesting hypothetical you gave. I saw Scott nodding in agreement with you there. Scott?
Yeah.
We won the Natty, right?
Who's we? Josh was just talking about just a 2-loss team making it in. It was just hypothetical. It doesn't happen, really.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that Michigan fans can accuse other teams of having a disputed natty. That's just amazing to me. But we'll just leave it there.
Give it a couple of weeks. We may have some more things to talk about. Scott, what would you like to see from a playoff picture standpoint?
Yeah, I think Reese Davis he nailed it, right? It's like, there's no way. It's absurd. I mean, to be able to think that. I would say, I don't know. I like to go down than the 12 because I don't think that there should be buys. I think that gave a disadvantage to some of the higher ranked teams, being able to get the home games. I mean, that brought some momentum to this team that is in this state known as the Ohio State. Being able to have that home game on your own turf, and it's not, how about this? Why don't we just get rid of all these insignificant bowl games that don't matter anything? But we know that's not going to happen because it's all about the money on that too. So maybe you have a bowl season of all the teams that weren't good enough to make it to a CFP playoff, and then have the playoffs.
Going to need more weeks. We're going to need more weeks in the calendar. Paul, how would you address this absurd idea that Reese has labeled for us?
Yeah, I do think that the Big Ten is bluffing a little bit here. I just don't. I don't know how they would go to 28. I personally think 16 is the right number. I agree with Scott. I think buys are unneeded. I would rather have those teams playing a home game. The first top couple teams, just because the home games were so entertaining last year in the playoff. I was thinking about, if it's a 28-team playoff, how far down the SEC and the Big Ten are you going for the conversation, right? So last year, Michigan finished sixth, I think, in the Big Ten, right? And in a 28-team playoff, they're getting in the playoff. And at first you might be like, oh, that's crazy. But then they turn around and validate themselves by beating Alabama, right? But are you going to really want to start having conversations about Iowa or Nebraska or some of those kind of schools, or Mississippi State, or I don't even know who it would be in the SEC, right? I just think it'd be really, really difficult to find 28 teams that would merit watching. That's why I think 16 teams. The first round is 8 home games for the top 8 teams, and just call it good. Don't be given 5 automatic buys to any conference. Just leave it there. That's my take.
And those conference championship games are going to have to go away if they keep expanding all this. They just can't. They cannot keep on playing more games than the NFL does at a college level. You just can't do that. By the way, has anybody done a wellness check on the SEC? Are they okay down there? Josh, have you heard anything? You're in North Carolina. I understand you're an ACC country, but have you heard anything from your friends in various colleges in the SEC? It's kind of a tough time to be down there.
I could hear Florida State all the way up
well,
here.
That's
3 states down.
That's good.
I keep forgetting they're in the SEC, of course. Yeah.
My daughter was so ticked at me because I'm down here in Cyprus, right? And my daughter went to Baylor, met my son-in-law at Baylor. So now that Texas has flipped to the SEC, they're of course rooting for Texas this weekend. So I sat here at our home and watched the game by myself because I didn't want to sit with the rest of my family, who were all rooting for the Longhorns. And I took some grief for that. And then when it was over, I went over and showed up at the house where everybody from the family was hanging out. And I'm just like, hey, was anybody watching the game?
Did you have your scarlet and gray on when you walked in?
No, I didn't do that. I was on one well-timed comment, and then I moved on. But it was fun.
All right, let's talk about week 1 and the games that happened. It was a pretty cool week of big-time matchups, and we also had the debut of a new quarterback in Columbus. We had the debut of a new quarterback in Ann Arbor. So let's start there. We'll go around the horn again. Josh, your thoughts on Underwood and Sayin, and maybe who made a bigger splash? Granted, they were against vastly different levels of competition, but what are your thoughts on that quarterback debut weekend?
Yeah, I can't speak too much to Julian saying because I was unfortunately taking a practice MCAT, so I didn't get to watch that game.
Same as all of us.
I was impressed. I was impressed with Bryce Underwood. I have high expectations. I also think that it would be I would not be doing Duke justice to let this go by without mentioning Darian Mensah. Eyes on Duke. I predict 10 wins, guarantee at least 9.
What?
So we'll see what happens. We got a good schedule. We'll see. But yeah, very impressed with Bryce Underwood, especially for, only being 18 years old as of a week ago. Reminds me of a Cooper Flag in that regard. So, yeah.
we only were reminded of Bryce's age roughly 11 times during the broadcast.
That's
I was kind of keeping track. I had a little over-under thing going. It was pretty impressive, though. Scott, your thoughts on week 1 and whatever you saw through quarterback debut time?
Yeah, I think Sane was the right pick. From what I see from Ohio State, I think they kept him within the means of what they needed to do. It was hey, don't mess up. Let's control the ball, and I think he did. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. And it wasn't a Will Howard experience. I mean, obviously he doesn't have the experience that Will did previous to that, but I think he had good throws. He got the ball to this number 4 that did not get the ball last year in the Texas game. So I think he performed well. Looking forward to his powder puff games coming up, like Grambling State this week, and seeing what he's going to do against those. Those are the ones that we really need to see him perform. But if you put him against this other guy named Manning, I think he came out on top. But that's also because Matty Patricia did a number on the offense and dialing it up. And now all of a sudden we're going to start talking about defenses instead of offenses, right?
Yeah, here in Detroit Lions country, mentioning the name of Matt Patricia really gets us kind of gets our blood boiling. A little, But he did dial up a game plan, and I was reading a comment from a former player whose name I can't recall, and he said you have to remember that Patricia, in his professional career, has game planned for Brady and Manning and blah, blah. And so it's not really a problem for him to come up with ways to rattle a college kid. And Paul Arch Manning was rattled. He did not look ready for the moment.
No, he didn't. And it's like you take an NFL defensive coordinator and you give him 8 months to come up with a game plan for week 1, right? And all of a sudden this is what you end up getting. I definitely think, I don't think Arch was overhyped or overrated. I just think the deck was stacked against him. And Ohio State played a great game. And Scott, I think, is exactly right. You're right, Scott. They didn't ask Sane to do too much. So it's really hard to know what we have yet as an Ohio State fan with the quarterback. I didn't.
Did any of you think that was going to be a 14-7 game? I certainly did not.
No, I didn't. But I also, it was good to see the defenses on both sides playing really well. And I felt like I don't think either team in the Ohio State game executed at a really high level, but I felt like it was a really high level game, if that makes any sense. The hitting and the athleticism and just all that kind of stuff was off the charts. I didn't watch a ton of the Michigan game because it was really hard, man. They're playing New Mexico, and I would flip over and I'd be like, okay, yeah, they're starting to gap them a little bit. They should be, blah, 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 blah. So I expected Michigan to get the win they did, and I looked at Underwood's stat line afterwards, and it was pretty impressive. And I think he's such a different kind of quarterback from Julian saying that that's even hard to make a comparison between the two. They're going to build their offenses, Michigan and Ohio State, in very different ways because of who their quarterbacks are, I think.
Yeah, Michigan.
They should both be encouraged, I guess.
Yeah, I would think so. Michigan clearly put some restraints on Bryce. They kept him from running. You don't want to get your guy banged up against New Mexico. So they really had him airing it out, short distances, never threw a deep ball. I'm guessing they're saving some things for Oklahoma. But it's funny, you know, we in the Maize and Blue world, and Josh, I'm sure you'll second this, we're so scarred by the lack of the forward pass last year that Bryce maybe completed, 2 passes of 8 yards each, and my phone was blowing up with we're back, because he threw fastballs to a tight end or to a running back coming out of the backfield. So it didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
All my friends over here were giving me all this trouble. They were saying Sharon Moore's not the guy. Michigan's not. I was trying to tell them, if you watch the games, you will know that last year was a personnel issue more than anything else. So seeing Bryce Underwood, seeing that block he laid out has me optimistic for this upcoming season, and we can, hopefully move the ball more than 1.5 yards.
Just one last note on Bryce and the block that Josh mentioned. This is just a little aside to every quarterback at every level in every team, because I know you're all listening to Church Pew Sports. When you go to throw a block on a misdirection or a reverse or whatever it is, stop leading with your throwing shoulder. Do not turn your right shoulder. If you're a right-handed quarterback, and that's what Bryce did. He leaned in with his right shoulder and delivered a hit. And I was like, oh, dude, no. Of all the things in the world, the separated shoulder is not what we needed to see. Thankfully, it didn't happen. So, Paul, behind the scenes here at Church Pew Sports, we're doing once again what we've done the last couple seasons, which is a weekly pick'em contest. But this year, we're doing it a little bit differently. So why don't you let everybody know, we're not going to spend 7 minutes every week doing picks on the air, but we want people to follow along.
Yeah, we decided that what we ought to do is kind of expand the pool of guys, and there's some personalities that are, I would call Church Pew Sports personalities, that are going to join us for the pick'em competition. I was feeling the need to level the playing field a little bit with a few Ohio State slappies to counter some of the Michigan slappies that are a part of this thing, and I'm putting myself firmly in that camp. So we have 8 different people that are going to be a part of the pick'em competition. What we're going to do is I'll still pick 5 games. We'll send that out ahead of time, and we'll post the picks on our social media channels just before each weekend, so anybody that's interested can see them there. But then we don't need to spend time telling you who we picked. We feel like that's not the best use of our time here on the actual podcast. But I do think we should talk about the fact that in week 1,
I was terrible.
You were not that great, though.
I was terrible.
You picked Colorado, you picked Clemson, and you picked Notre Dame. Nobody can dog you for picking Clemson and picking Notre Dame, because most of us did. But you also had Colorado. So that was a tough week for you.
Oh, man.
David Collins was the only guy. Shout out to David. He's the only guy who picked LSU. Was I the only one who, watching that game, I was like, man, one team would start to get a little momentum, and I'd find myself rooting for the other team just because I don't like either of those teams.
Yes,
exactly how that game played out for me.
I think the text I got from David, we all got from David, was that his favorite moment was Brian Kelly getting run over by the official on the sidelines. That was it was the highlight of that game.
If you haven't seen that, you should go find it. David is in first place in our standings. Bill, you might be in the basement. It's still early. Ask Arch Manning. Let's read the whole book.
I'm the Arch.
Let's read the whole book. This is just the first chapter. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. I will say that week 2, the games that we have slated to pick, we got to pick the Michigan-Oklahoma game. That's by far the best game of the whole weekend, in my opinion. I think College Game Day is going to be there, and that would be interesting. We're going to pick Iowa State. We're going to pick Army and Kansas State, just because I'm tired of Carson Greenhog grumbling to me about we never put Kansas State in the docket. And then we're going to pick Ole Miss, and we're going to get a little action. We're going to throw Bowling Green out there and see what they can do against Cincinnati. So those are our games that we're going to pick for this coming weekend. As of right now, David Collins is in the lead. But again, the spread is only 1 or 2 games, because most of us pick Clemson, most of us pick Notre Dame.
Just an encouragement to all of you. Connect with us on social media, on X and on Facebook. You'll see the graphics. We'd love to have you play along as well. And by the way, a big win, speaking of Maction, for Connor Stallions U, known as Central Michigan University. They got a big season opening win
Yes,
also.
they did.
But for me, the oddest moment of the entirety of week 1 was this moment.
Devin Hester Jr. from the 3. Has an opening, breaks a tackle, he's past the 35, he's at midfield, there he goes, down the sideline he goes, being pressured, chased, and he's finally forced out of bounds around the 15-yard line. About an 80-yard return, huge return on the kickoff return for Furman.
That's for Devin Hester Jr. Now that name should sound vaguely familiar to you, even for a young guy like Josh, probably the most electric kick returner of the modern era, Devin Hester. Devin Hester.
Where did he play?
Furman. This junior's at Furman.
No, I mean professionally.
Oh, I don't know, somewhere in the division that we belong to. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But you're stepping on the headline. Yeah. Devin Hester Jr., no relation to Devin Hester, the all-time great kick returner.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's no relation. Oh. And the story goes that his mom was a huge fan of the famous kick returner, and the name was already Hester, and so like I said, it's the strangest moment of the entire week.
Okay, would you do that if your name was attached to a public figure or a sports hero or something? Would you name your kid after that person just because you can? Is that something you would do to your kid?
Wow.
I'm asking anyone.
No.
Wait, I'm just wondering, like, you ask him what his dad's name is, and it's like John. It's not even Devin Hester to give him the junior.
There's a lot of complications to this. It's probably going to be a 4-episode Netflix series at some point. Josh Gilmer, if you could choose a famous athlete's name, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish the value of the Gilmer name. I love the whole family. But if you had your choice to swap over to another name, where are you going? Are you going Christian Laettner? Are you going, you're a Dookie.
Cooper Flag, he's going.
I think Charles Woodson. I think he's the first name that came to mind.
Charles Woodson Gilmer. All right. Yep. Hey, legal, these things can happen. It'll be difficult with mom and dad to get this one through, but it can happen. And also we learned a lesson in week 1, and that is do not, under any circumstance, disrespect the city of New Orleans and Tulane University. Okay, so here's the backstory. Tulane was playing Northwestern, the vaunted Wildcats, also located, I believe, in Chicago, Scott. Interesting how you haven't attached yourself to that great program. They were playing on the 20th anniversary of the first of the Hurricane Katrina nightmare. We just watched the Netflix documentary. I mean, it was reminding me of the awfulness of that whole thing. And so Tulane requested of Northwestern that they would be able to wear their white jerseys because in 2005, Tulane wore white jerseys in its first game after Katrina. So it was a throwback. It was a commemoration, and Northwestern said no. Tulane,
really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Tulane coach John Sumrall was none too pleased.
We wore the green helmets today for the 20th anniversary of Katrina. I'm going to say one thing. I'm not trying to take a shot, but we requested to wear white jerseys because that's what that team wore. It got denied by the other team. That's their prerogative. But when you show disrespect to the city of New Orleans, that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to run into a team like this. They had a chip on their shoulder because I wanted them to wear the same exact uniform that team wore 20 years ago. Request got denied.
Just died. Paul,
we might have used that for a little bit of motivation to represent the city. So don't disrespect New Orleans ever.
Yeah, so I'm here for every part of that quote except for one. When he says, I'm not going to take a shot. Then he takes a shot. I'm like, buddy, if you're going to take a shot, just own it. Just say, this was Bush League, what you did, which I think it was that Northwestern did, and they were taught a lesson. And I don't know if I don't know how that works, if the home team obviously gets to choose uniform colors and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know what would be the reason that Northwestern would say you can't wear white, because they can wear those ugly purple or their third color black uniforms and be just fine. So
Just seems like you would have a little more awareness of an important milestone like that. But anyways, those were a couple of interesting moments. I've got one more for you guys that it might be my favorite. Actually, I'm going to save this one for a little bit later. I may use this for my that guy. So
how about running out the clock the right way and not losing the game in the last few seconds?
Time management.
You know what game I'm talking about? I mean, intentional grounding. And then you give the team a chance to march down, and they lateral it into the end zone. I mean, that was wild for week one.
Yeah.
All the training camp, all of the reps, all of the 2-minute drills, all of the red zone focus, all of the things you've done in 2-a-days or long, hot afternoons. And in week one, when the pressure ratchets up and you haven't been through it before, I think all that stuff just gets lost. It just gets completely lost. And coaches are pulling out their hair trying to figure out, what did we spend all of our time practicing?
Yeah. So this is a Michigan kind of question, sort of. CJ Carr, Notre Dame, grandson of Lloyd Carr. Scott, he came to mind from you when you started talking about clock mismanagement at the end of the game, right? They kind of botched their last minute clock management stuff, which Marcus Freeman, you got to get your act together. But what's your guys' take on CJ Carr? I don't know if you watched the Notre Dame game, but you're not now that Underwood's playing for Michigan, you're not missing Carr, obviously. Right, but what are your thoughts on that from the shadow of Ann Arbor?
Well, what I was going to say about week one, first thing that came to mind was it's good for me that Riley Leonard is no longer at Notre Dame, because now I feel like I'm allowed to hate them again. And CJ Carr being there gave me a second reason. So it was great all around.
There you go.
Oh, man. I'm always surprised by the family legacy stuff when it when it breaks down. You know, and if a guy is going to commit to grandpa's school and not play, does he have the permission slip to leave grandpa's school? These days, everybody has a permission slip, right? Yeah. I don't know what brand loyalty is anymore. I was watching whatever games, I watched a handful of games like a lot of people. And whenever the first series for each team, of course, that's when television does the introductions. So you got the little player's head popped up and you got his number and his year. You no longer, by the way, do they list his major.
No.
They don't, because they don't have room for it. Because they've got to list the 3 or 4 schools he's attended before the current university. And the graphic is all taken up by all the places that he's been. So I don't know what the kid's studying. We're probably done referring to them as student athletes. We're just going to call them college athletes because the student thing is laughable, except for Josh Gilmer, who's very much still a student. And yet when you try to think about loyalty and sticking to the old maize and blue or the scarlet and gray or the green and white and everything, I will long remember what happened earlier this year at the tail end of March Madness. My Wolverines, this is basketball, were playing the Spartans in East Lansing on their senior day. And you may remember that one of the senior Spartans wanted to go and, the tradition, kiss the logo at center court. And there were a couple of Wolverines that were standing somehow within like 12 and a half feet of the logo. So that was an international incident. And one of the players named Halliday came over and he was the one that was going to police the logo. And after the game, Coach Izzo proudly proclaimed that this guy is the heart and soul of our team. He's a captain. He is what Spartan basketball and Spartan athletics is all about. A week later, he transferred to another school.
Yep.
I'm trying to caution myself not to fall in love with a 4-year version of Bryce Underwood. Because who knows these days? And that's one of the frustrating parts of it all. All right, let's move on to holy discontent.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
Josh Gilmer, lead us off.
Yeah, I think mine has to be the targeting call and the appeal. So for Barham, the Michigan linebacker,
ridiculous.
I don't really know what was going on with that, and the appeal stayed. Whatever they say. So.
Almost like the NCAA was. Oh, never mind. I won't go there. Josh took mine.
You got to clarify. Sorry, is it the rule or the ruling? Because I think.
For me, I think that it is the ruling. I understand because to me, I know the helmet to helmet, but he did not launch, he did not lead, he did not crown of the helmet. It was helmet to helmet contact, but that's about it. And that is inevitable. Yes, the ruling is the problem for me.
He's 8 inches taller than the quarterback he demolished. There's literally no physical way to make that hit without getting flagged. So, yeah, I'm with you, Josh. You took mine. Scott, you're wholly discontent.
Jerry Jones trading Micah Parsons to a team that took them out of the playoffs without a Micah Parsons on their team, and him saying, this is good for our team. Now, this has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a Bears fan, and for the next 4 years, I'm going to see Micah Parsons saying that he owns the Bears like Aaron Rodgers has kept that up. Nothing to do with that, but 2 late first-round picks for a generational talent. And when you put it in the perspective, as I looked it up, the 49ers on draft day gave up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance.
Wow. Wow.
That is crazy.
So that is like robbery right in front of you that the Packers did. And
as a Lions fan, I echo that because he's in the division, and that's going to be a problem. Paul, you're wholly discontent.
Yeah. Oh, I got to come back down to earth after hearing Scott talk about that. My wholly discontent is kind of a 2-for-1 here. I was going to go after Mr. Brightside because it's like one of the weirdest college hype song things I've ever seen. I believe we have a little clip of that for you guys. I just don't get it.
I don't either.
I just don't get it, especially, hey, Michigan, did you know that song is about a guy who's trying to cheer himself up because his girlfriend is shacking up with one of his friends? Just saying. So I was going to come hard at the University of Michigan about that. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can't say anything because Ohio State has decided that their walkout music is going to be this. Ohio State, Michigan, you guys need to be better. You need to fire whoever your media relations people are and let a couple of college freshmen pick the songs for you. They couldn't do any worse than whoever it is that you're paying to pick the songs to get played every week at your stadium.
You know, it's funny you say that about the Buckeyes, Paul, because in all seriousness, they have a very, very open and celebrated faith component to their team. It's just interesting that they have Hell's Bells as their anthem. So
doesn't make any sense.
Josh, what's the anthem sort of version of that at Duke?
It is Every Time We Touch by Cascada.
What are we doing? It's not a nightclub.
What are we doing?
Oh my goodness, that's too good. All right, it's time for that guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
I'm going to lead us off for that guy segment. And this is, Scott, I think you'll like this. The Bears have a player I don't know how much action he's going to see on the field, but clearly they have high hopes for Tyson Bagent, to the point where they signed him to a pretty big contract. And there are times when we see athletes sign, Micah Parsons going to sign a gigantic deal, and that's all fine and that's all good. I think Micah was doing okay before the deal. So this is just, kind of more whipped cream on top of the sundae, and good for him, not disparaging that at all. I wish he was coming to Detroit. Tyson Bagent, though, came from a different background. And when he signed a deal, I think it was for $10 million. And in the world of the NFL, that's not going to move the needle for every player, but it definitely did for Tyson. And I want you to hear what he had to say about the meaningfulness of this blessing.
A lot of people don't know this, but my dad is he's my right-hand man, and he didn't even have running water until he was in high school. So there's definitely a lot of things and people that I think I could certainly help with this gift I've been blessed with. But yeah, just little things like that. I don't really know anybody back at home with any money, so yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's certainly a weight off my shoulders and my family's shoulders, and yeah, it definitely means a lot.
Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. Heartfelt, genuine, and a young man who realized that his family's future has just been impacted by his ability to play the game. So well done, Tyson. Thanks for being real about it all. Josh, you have anybody in that guy category?
I don't really have one, so I'll just use this as an opportunity to shout out Dan Campbell, because I like to do that whenever I can.
Nice.
Just because he's Dan Campbell.
It's time. It's almost time. Scott Tinman, what do you have?
I just have to give a shout out to a sophomore from the Ohio State University, Logan Pello, who was picked to kick a 33-yard field goal. Yeah. After Peter drops a deuce right by where he's kicking. Yeah. And for $250,000, one kick and drills it. Give that guy a scholarship at some school, please.
He smoked it, didn't he? That was pretty good.
That was awesome.
Paul, we kind of stepped on yours earlier with the Corso talk. If you don't mind, I'm going to throw in a little bonus. This is just kind of a funny little moment. I want you to picture the kitchen of Matt Leinart, the former USC quarterback. Now I think he's a part of the Fox broadcast team. He has a couple little boys, and they're in the kitchen, and his wife is in the kitchen, and she's got her phone going as one of the little boys asks Alexa, "Who is Matt Leinart?"
Alexa, who's Matt Leinart?
From sports.com. Matt Leinart was a Heisman Trophy-winning quarterback at USC and a top 10 NFL draft pick, but his pro career didn't amount to much.
That's awesome.
Really?
Yikes. Oh well.
Wow, Alexa's rough.
He says, really? Alexis is rough, and his wife is snorting. She's laughing so hard.
We can all laugh at that, because if we asked Alexa who any of us were, Alexa would say, "Who?
Yeah,
I don't know."
Yeah, and his pro career didn't amount to much, and it's rough. I'm guessing that Mom put the boy up to that because she was ready with the phone, and that just seemed like it had a little bit of a setup to it. All right, we're going to wrap things up with our 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay, we've been talking about this quite a bit, actually, in our conversation today. 38 years of College Game Day for Lee Corso. That means he started doing College Game Day, what? 18 years before Josh was born, something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there maybe, just to give us some perspective. That's pretty amazing. I think I was in college. Was I in college then? Yeah. Anyways, it's so impressive. I'm so glad that Corso got celebrated for his long obedience in the same direction. And that phrase comes from a work by Nietzsche, right? The philosopher guy, Beyond Good and Evil. Here's the quote. The essential thing in heaven and earth is that there should be a long obedience in the same direction. There thereby results, and has always resulted in the long run, something which has made life worth living. For those of us who know Jesus, that phrase, a long obedience in the same direction, takes on new meaning because of Eugene Peterson, and he kind of co-opted it for a book, used it for a book that he wrote by the same title. It is something that we should all aspire to. And my challenge to all of us this week would be to find some time to sit down and read the entire chapter of Psalm 119 and ask yourself, what's the direction you're heading in? Is it a direction that you should be aspiring to have a long obedience in that direction? Verses 32 and 33 of Psalm 119 say, I run in the path of your commands, for you have broadened my understanding. Teach me, Lord, the way of your decrees, that I may follow it to the end. So Lee Corso modeled that for us in something that has very little eternal significance, if any, which would be College Game Day and broadcasting a sport that we all know and love and follow very closely. We, as Jesus followers, get to aspire to a similar thing over the course of our lives, to have a long obedience in the same direction, which is pursuing life with Jesus, which will affect all your relationships and ultimately give you a life with purpose. And so that's my challenge to all of us this week. Take a few minutes and sit down, pull out your Bible, read Psalm 119, and just have that conversation with the Lord.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Very good. Scott, so good to have you with us. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I loved it.
I didn't have the enthusiasm that I thought he might close it out with. He's like, yeah,
well,
I've got a dentist.
I loved it that
no, I'm just
you
kidding.
talked about my bear. You talked about my Bears there as you're that guy. So that's awesome.
Dude, that Badgett, I'm a fan of Badgett now for sure. And Josh Gilmer, congratulations again on the nuptials and on still being with us. And thanks for joining.
Yeah.
At some point, we will have to talk maybe on a podcast about how you develop some of the sports consumption parameters as a newlywed, right? I mean, Paul, you've probably counseled young couples in this way at some point.
Yeah, it never really went well for me when I tried to explain to other people how to do things that I didn't know how to do. So I'm not going to pretend to be able to say you should have balance. I'm the guy who on the way to my honeymoon almost missed my flight to Hawaii because the Bulls were playing the Suns in Game 6. And almost cratered my honeymoon. I couldn't hide behind the fact that I was choking on something. It was just a bad decision that I was making.
Oh, did he fake the choke to go watch a game? Is that what we're insinuating? Oh, we have a Church Pew Sports investigation coming up on our next episode. Thanks for joining us, friends. Make sure you check us out at churchpewsports.com and on socials at Facebook and X. And we will look forward to talking with you again next time here on Church Pew Sports.